From what I can remember of my grandfather, he was a surly man with chapped lips and rough palms. His great passion in life was woodworking, a juxtaposition to his job in finance. Whenever we came over to visit, he would come up from his studio, sawdust clinging to him like cologne, oil spots dampening his shirt. His magnum opus had happened to be my ninth grade birthday present, a meticulously crafted dollhouse emulating my grandparents' old Victorian home. It was almost as large as I was, and certainly heavier in weight. Hinges ran down the middle, opening like skeletal bones, exposing each room as an exact replica. The details were painstakingly executed, down to the furnishings. My grandfather had even contacted the manufacturer who had produced a lofty blue stained glass window at the center of the house, having them create a miniature version of it. I only saw the dollhouse once as a child. Soon after my birthday, my father and grandfather got into a horrific fight, severing contacts. The visit ceased entirely, and Grandpa was stricken from conversation. He became unmentionable, as if he never, ever existed. When he died, I remember my dad coming into the kitchen, a bewildered look on his face. The old man has left us everything. What? My mom put down her newspaper. Even the house? Yes, even the house. My parents quickly packed up our two-bedroom apartment, moving us from Boston to the outskirts of Londonderry. As we pulled up alongside my grandpa's home, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The structure I had thought so grand and regal in my youth was now monstrous and daunting. Stepping inside, I spun around in the marbled entrance in front of the grand staircase statue in front. Where's my room? I looked to my mom, who was rattling off instructions to the movers in typical high-energy fashion, like a machine gun. You're in the bedroom downstairs. It's right along the stairwell. Downstairs? My dad came in, carrying a cumbersome box and setting it down. Why not the second bedroom, by ours? The heat isn't working in that room, John, so it's either the downstairs bedroom or your daughter freezing to death. A look of annoyance came over her face. Well, why don't we just call the HVAC guys to fix it? It's okay. I held up my hands in front of them. Anything to stop them from fighting. I'll take it downstairs. I really don't mind. Really. I saw my mom give my dad a smug grin before retreating down to the hall, to the last room on the right. I went to turn the handle, but my eyes landed on a series of sliding, heavy-duty locks running down the side of the door. Why would they have locks on the outside of the door? Wiggling them loose, the door eventually came ajar. A singular rectangular window ran alongside the top of the ceiling, letting in a thin stream of light. Struggling to see, I found a light switch and flicked it upwards. Illuminating the sparsely decorated room, there was a worn bed that looked like it had seen better days, and an old dresser against the wall. Tucked away in the corner was the dollhouse, sitting atop a circular drum-like table. Putting down my bag, I went over, touching my fingers to the carvings that ran through the construction of the open porch in front. With my thumb, I pressed down the hinges, and the dollhouse sprang. Several small dolls fell out, clinking to the floor. They were like Barbies, but smaller. I held them, trying to remember if they were mine. They did look familiar. One of them was wrapped in a light gray cotton material, a makeshift outfit. I put them down on the table. "Mindy!" I heard my mom calling. "Your boxes are here!" We unpacked our messy belongings for the rest of the afternoon. Later that evening, as I was returning to my new room, I halted outside of the doorframe. The dollhouse was lit up, emitting a warm orange glow from the darkness, like a campfire at night. I felt my heart quicken as I saw the dolls had been placed in positions sitting at the dining room table where my parents and I had just finished our pizza dinner. Their limbs had been manipulated, elbows bent, legs crossed. One had their heel brought up alongside their knee, just as my father did when he was relaxed. I turned on the overhead light. I went over, flipping the house lights off. Maybe I moved the dolls, and I just don't remember. I got into bed, glancing once more at the model of the home. The next morning I came into the kitchen, where my mom was waiting, car keys in hand. "Come on, let's get a move on. First day after new school." I let out a groan. "Do I have to go?" "Yes, and I'm sorry to say your father had a late night pizza raid, so you are without lunch. You'll have to get something at the cafeteria." "Gross." Later that evening, I was thoroughly grilled by my parents. "How was school? How are the teachers? Did you make any friends?" I shrugged my shoulders. "It was fine. It was fine." "Oh, I need $100 for biology class. We're doing a unit on genetics, and they want each and every student to buy one of those Ancestry.com tests." My mom went to her purse, whipping out a crisp bill. "This better actually be for biology class." Retreating to my room after dinner, I flopped down on the bed, shifting my body sideways. I glanced up and jumped, feeling my body spaz. The dollhouse's lights were on again, and the dolls had moved. This time, one was up in the upstairs bedroom, which my parents occupied, sitting at the desk. The other was positioned on a couch, while one doll was laying down in a bed in what would be my room. I got up, calling into the hallway. "Have you guys been in my room at all today?" "No," my parents echoed. I shut the door, coming closer to the structure. There was something in the kitchen, and bending over, I picked it up. A small, round thing, the size of a quarter. It took me a second, but I realized that it was a pizza from our dinner last night. I don't remember going to sleep, but I awoke to a dark room and the sound of giggling. The dollhouse was ablaze golden with light. It had been turned so that the exterior was facing towards me, unhinged and opened fully like a clamshell. A shadow passed by the window of the house. There was a scampering of feet. I had to hold my breath not to scream. I could hear voices talking, low and undescribable. "Hello?" I stammered, my voice quaking with fear. The voices paused. "Hello? Is anyone there?" I could hear things moving from inside the dollhouse. There was a rustling sound from one of the windows. The curtain was being pulled to the side. One of the dolls filled the frame, its head tilted, peering out. I felt like I was going to pass out, grasping my blanket. "Hello," said a small voice. "Come play with me." I sat still, my breath raged and heavy. "Come play with me," the voice said again, the doll remaining frozen in the window. When I didn't say anything, the doll disappeared from view, the curtain once again falling into place. Suddenly, the lights went out. With the dollhouse extinguished, the room was shuttered in absolute darkness. I tried to adjust my eyes, blinking. An explosion of footsteps, this time heavier, fell across the floor as something slid under the bed with a loud bump. A cascade of laughter came up as I let my gaze wander to the deep abyss underneath me. I sucked in my breath and, holding onto the bed frame, bent downwards, bringing my head down closer to the floor, positioned just on the edge of where my blanket fell, was the doll I had seen in the window. Picking her up, I realized that she was wrapped in a familiar fabric cloth from a pair of my favorite yellow pajamas I had put away in the dresser the day before. It smelled something foul and putrid. I felt a wetness on my finger. Turning her over, several words were scribbled on the doll with black sticky ink. Play with me. Hello, sleepyhead. My mom smiled at me behind a large mug of steaming hot coffee. You look like shit, Mindy. I nodded my head, grabbing a banana from the fruit basket. I felt like shit after last night, exhausted from the antics of the dollhouse. Did Dad leave for work already? Yep. And if you want to get a ride to school, you better move that little caboose of yours. This train is leaving. I felt in a daze. Class went by in a blur. When I got back home, I didn't want to go inside, opting to lie down on the grass while trying to complete my homework. At around twilight, my mom came out. You're going to get sick if you stay out here. Come on in. When I got to my room, the dollhouse lights were on, with the doll I had held yesterday wearing my yellow pajamas, placed outside the dollhouse, lying down on the table. I tried to avoid it, going about my routine, brushing my teeth and getting ready for bed. I let out a gasp when I turned to the dollhouse and found the doll had been moved, now looking at me from the window similar to last night. I sat down on the bed staring at it. What do you want? The doll began to move, its body shifting towards my direction. A voice echoed from the dollhouse. Play. I shook my head. No. Cara says play. The voice said again and again, but this time more forcefully. Cara, is that your name? I waited and I waited, watching as the doll began swinging back and forth. Cara Rose says play. Then the doll vanished. I tried my best to go to sleep. I woke up one time in the night to a loud bump, jolting upright in my bed. In the morning, as sunlight poured into the room, I opened my eyes and let out a small scream. There at the foot of my bed was the doll. Its hands was stained a dark red, and on one of the walls, scribbled in red ink, was printed, Cara Rose says play. I threw the doll from my bed, gathering my things and running out of the bedroom as quickly as I could. On the drive to school, my mom turned to me. You should use some of my eye cream, kiddo. You look like a raccoon. Late night studying, huh? Mom, I let out a sigh. Was half tempted to tell her about the dollhouse and the doll, but stopped. Do you know anybody by the name of Cara Rose? Was she a relative or something like that? Or someone that lived at our house? Mom's face suddenly went ashen. Where did you hear that name? I shrugged my shoulders, evading her question. Cara Rose was your dad's childhood friend. She lived down the road from your grandfather's house with her family. Oh, okay. I looked at her perplexed. Carl went missing when your dad was around 15. Where did you hear that name, Mindy? I found it. Written in an old notebook in my closet, I said, lying. Mom gave half a smile, bringing her eyes back to the road. I settled into my seat and let out an exhale, settling into an uncomfortable truth. Cara Rose wasn't missing. She was living in my dollhouse.